Okay, I doubt anyone is here. I'm gonna just bear with me, and we're gonna let everybody know that we are moving to a different video real quick. Okay. Okay, I'm telling everyone, if you could just exit. Try one more time. I got live to work on my phone. Just exit this video and refresh the channel, and you should see it. Okay. Okay. Then I'm going to, if anyone's here right now, yay, Melody, you see me. Okay, very good. I'm going to try to pull up YouTube on my desktop over there. So that's crazy. Okay, 2 people are here. I'm gonna see, yep, I see it. Some people are coming in. And I need to turn my sound off. There we go. Yay, it's working. And I'm gonna try one more thing. If you'll bear with my finger coming in front of this for a second. Well, maybe. Can you guys hear the sound okay? Everything's loading again. And Jennifer says, yes, it's loading. Very good. Okay, I can see your questions. I'm sorry. What a crazy day. We are here in the house, and everybody in the house is saying it's crazy too. So I think it was someone on the other group said, what do we do if the internet has trouble and we're trying to homeschool? That's our first question. And oh my, yes, that's a good question. So hopefully Homeschooling Torah never has technical difficulties, right? Yeah, right. Okay, out on the bus on our first try, we had a question on how to start homeschooling, and I sort of answered. It wasn't very coherent because I knew you guys couldn't hear me anyway. So hopefully I will answer a little better. You guys let me know if the sound goes in and out. It seems like our internet here in Michigan is having trouble today, and it is raining. I don't know if any of you guys have trouble when it's raining at your house, but that does seem to be a problem with internet connections. So what we're going to do is let's talk about how to start homeschooling. I don't know if Amanda was able to be here, but she was one of the ones that was a new homeschooling mom, and I wanted to answer her question. And she was not the only one. We had so many people that have started homeschooling this year because of coronavirus, and they feel a little bit overwhelmed. Honestly, I had 5 years from the time, well, I say 5 years, but I don't know if my husband was on board for me homeschooling that whole first 5 years of my son's life, but pretty quick he was. And so I spent a lot of time getting ready to homeschool, and I went to conferences and I read books, and people that are pulling their kids out for COVID have only had a really short amount of time to get ready. So I'm trying to think of the things I already answered on this question, and seeing if I can remember some of the things I said out on the bus. But basically, if I were brand new to homeschooling, I would try to get away on a date night or an overnight trip with my husband and get a babysitter for the kids and just spend a lot of time in prayer and say, you know what, Father, we're really new to this, but what is one thing that you want us to teach our kids this year? Because one of the things I find is that new parents to homeschooling feel like they have to keep up with the public school. They have to do math, and they have to make sure they're all up to date with every single thing that they would have learned if they were still in 5th grade over there at the school. And they're afraid that they don't even know how to teach math the same way that their teachers would have taught it, and they're just overwhelmed. But if I can get you to step back and not think of it that way, if you can think of it as, you know, we're parents and we are in charge of teaching our kids because the Bible says so. And it says that it's our responsibility. So we can go to the Father and we can say, what is the one thing that you want us to teach our kids this year? Write that down. Make yourself a little mission statement for that year. Then I would tell you to get organized. So, yay, it's working. Thank you, everybody. So do you see those? Maybe this is good I'm in here. I'm going to tilt this a little bit. Do you see that? Those are drawers over there. That's my homeschooling cabinet. So in those drawers, let's see, if I'm in that top drawer on the farthest side, that's what's in there. Coloring paper and stuff, and not really much of anything. It's just, oh, extra books. Those are all the extra books. The middle drawer, and you can't see the bottom one, that is where we put all our school supplies. Goodness, I could even show you. Why not? We're doing this live. So this is it. It's like all our homeschool supplies right here. And there's my straws for teaching how to do, you know, that's as fancy as my manipulatives get. You don't need to be fancy. Just get yourself organized. If you're not organized, it's going to be really hard to homeschool this year. So when I give you guys a handout, because I'm going to give you a handout of all the questions that we're answering in this session, then I'm going to give you a list of some basic school supplies that you can have. Go now while they're on sale and just get simple things, okay? And if you don't have school supplies, you can use straws. You don't need it to be fancy. A whiteboard, I think a whiteboard is wonderful, but even if you don't have that, you can just get a little tiny whiteboard. The bottom drawer over on this side has a whole bunch of whiteboards. You don't need it to be fancy, but it is nice to be organized so that you know where things are. Yeah, that's basically our homeschool thing. You guys can see it. It doesn't need to be very big. You don't need to have a whole room. And of course, I do recommend putting things on the walls, but if you don't have much wall space, then use what you have. Relax and say, you know what, it's going to be okay. I don't have to keep up with anyone else, not any other homeschool family or public schools or any other thing. Then I guess the only other thing I would say is if you're going to get a new year start, I would make sure that you have the respect of your kids. And this is probably the hardest one, but make sure your kids will listen when you speak. You know, I've found that a lot of kids will respect their school teacher, but they don't respect their mom. And if you don't respect mom, then it's going to be really difficult to teach them anything. So if that means you need to take 6 weeks and really work on respect and obedience, then it would then start in on the academics. That would make everything a lot easier. Casey, I just got to thinking about something, and that isn't my phone battery is not going to make it this whole thing. Yeah, if you could, I think we could plug it in with that charging cord over there, if possibly, or get an extension cord in the kitchen. So, all right, let's see. Yep, I can plug it in here. So, I'm going to real quick make you jiggle for a second, everybody, while I plug in my phone. Fantastic. Okay, homeschooling as a single parent. That was a question I got, and I thought it went really well with this that we're talking about right now, because a single mom or a single dad, grandma that's going to be teaching her grandchildren, they have it a lot more difficult than even someone that's just starting very quickly. Because and I think I would put in this category anyone that's homeschooling and they're working full time. That's a really difficult situation to be in. And I think that what I would tell you in this situation is look at homeschooling like it's a job. And by that I mean that you need to have a set time that you homeschool. Maybe you have to work during the daytime and your kids are at daycare or with somebody else. Then when you get home, I know you're going to be tired, but you need to look like this is a responsibility I have before the Father, and I need to give it another 2 hours. If you could do 2 hours, maybe even less, but if you could do 2 hours, then you can put your feet up, okay? You need to have systems in place, and that planner that I gave you guys yesterday, and it's on the freebie page of our website for the conference. That planner can help you figure out your schedule. And you don't have to do 8 hours a day of school. If all you can get is 1 hour, then be consistent day after day after day. I think that would help you a lot. As far as you can give assignments to your kids to be working on while you're at work, or while you're having to do the grocery shopping and, you know, all the meal planning. You can be giving them assignments. And that works even with Homeschooling Torah, where we try to be really parent directed and involved in all the discussions. Sometimes that's just not going to work. So I'm going to, in the freebie I give you guys tonight in your email, I'm going to give you some links on how to set up an independent style school where you come back to together every night, or whenever you're off work, or whenever you can, and you can concentrate your school on the things that you really, really want to do, which I would recommend for Bible, history, and science is the top. But you're going to need to check their math and stuff. So I've got a lot of ideas, and I'm going to give you links to that in our freebie handout tonight. Okay. We had a lot of people talking about organization and chores. What do we do about them? Now, before we do that, I want to remind you of some things we've already learned during this conference. First of all, we need to have anchors for our day. You need to have anchors for your time routine. And for me, I think the most logical anchors to your time are breakfast, lunch, and supper, and bedtime, right? Those are things that happen every single day, no matter what day it is. So those can become anchors. And by that, I mean that, you know what? It's 1 o'clock, we need lunch. It's 6 o'clock, we need supper. And those things can kind of anchor you, so that if you're disorganized as a person, you need to first start with your time. And those, you know, I would show you my phone right now, but it's working. So I set alarms, and when that alarm goes off, I have to stop what I'm doing and go get working on, you know, supper prep or whatever. So having anchors for your daily routine is a great place, and that will help you start to get organized. I know we're thinking about things and how to organize our stuff, but time is really where our problem is. We get distracted and we run off to here, or we run off to there, and we don't. I think that's why most of us are disorganized. That's my opinion. It's just, and after a while, it just becomes overwhelming, all the stuff everywhere. So another thing that I want to remind you that we've already talked about in this conference, I think I can reach my planner without coming right in the camera. I have a planner here. Yeah, I know it's a printed book. I just made it myself. That's what happens when you have a relationship with a printing company. So you just make your own planners. But it's the one I gave you guys yesterday in the freebie, is exactly the same as mine. And I would have a set time. This is another anchor point every week where you plan out your week. It's like quiet time with the Father every morning, but quiet time with yourself. And it's an appointment you should not break. You need to be organized in your time and in your thinking, and then plan out your life. You can have an ideal week. So like, I think I showed this to you before. If you want to be organized in your home, can't find it, you need to have an ideal week where you've set up and said, I even have time to get everything done. I honestly think clutter happens in our time before it happens in our house, or just a lack of knowing what we even want to do with our time. And it's the same with our stuff. We just kind of throw it somewhere because we don't know what to do with it all, or we don't have a purpose for it. So then when it comes to organizing, I know it's an old-fashioned saying, but a place for everything and everything in its place. I have how many pairs of scissors? Alistair, will you count up how many pairs of scissors we have in this house? Can you think of that real quick? He's thinking. The reason I'm having him do that is because we have a lot of pairs of scissors, and we don't have just one. What do you think?
Including the one in the bus?
Sure.
I'd say 5.
All right, he says 5. So we have a pair of scissors in the kitchen that we use for cooking. I have a pair of scissors at my desk, and Dad has a pair of scissors at his desk, and Dad has 2. Okay. Oh, we have sewing scissors, and we have a pair out in the bus. So the reason I say that is because if you use scissors at your school table, then you should keep a pair of scissors there. If you use pencils at the school table, you should keep pencils there. That way you don't have to start every day running around trying to find all the stuff. You have it right at the point of use, okay? I do have a lot of information on getting organized in my book. It's called The Organized Homeschool, and that's one of the things that I have in there, and a lot of tips and stuff. One person said, how do you stay organized with a large family? If you have, say, well, I have 7 kids. How do you do it with 7 kids? Well, that is a challenge because there are 7 times of, well, it could be 7 times as many activities going on. But honestly, I have found that the larger the family, it almost forces you to get organized because you have so much that you like have to get organized or you're going to lose your sanity. I think the principles are the same whether you have a really small family or a really big family. The problem with a really small family is that you might have more space to put things. And so you don't realize how disorganized you're getting until suddenly it kind of caves in on you. Speaking of organization, I know school districts have calendars and they're going to get started school on a certain date, but I really recommend that you take about a month and get your brain organized and your closet organized and your kitchen organized, know where the recipes are, know where the scissors are before you get going on school. You'll just feel so much more confident than you would if you tried to just dive into absolutely everything at once. Another thing you can do is just start teaching just Bible every day and learn how to do that, and then spend the day on organization and obedience, and then next week maybe add in history. And you don't have to be on week 1 in every single subject. You just don't. You can do it however you want. So taking like a month or so to organize yourself and just take it one room at a time. What I think works good for my brain is to have 3 boxes. You can get 3 boxes somewhere. Maybe next time Amazon orders, save a big box, and you have 1 box is stuff that you're going to keep. 1 box is stuff that you're going to throw away because it's pure junk, and you need to be ruthless and put a lot in that box. And then 1 box that you give away or take to a thrift store, and you want to remember to take it back because you borrowed a book from somebody and you never gave it back to them and you found it behind the bookshelf. All right, so those 3 boxes have a lot in the 2 that you're getting rid of, and then 1 that you are just, so you're basically get rid of stuff, okay? Finally, every single day, now remember I said anchor points again? You had breakfast, lunch, and supper. Those are natural anchor points for getting organized. Do the dishes. When you eat, do the dishes. When you get dressed, put your dirty clothes in the hamper. When you use the bathroom, grab a rag or a wipe and wipe it down real quick. If you did that every single time you used the bathroom would start looking pretty good after a few times. It's kind of, don't pick something up and put it down where it doesn't belong. Force yourself to get and say, wait a second, why would I pick this up twice? I could, okay, so like the mail, I can't quite reach mail, but it's over there. And if the mail comes in the house and you just throw it on the desk, then you're going to have to touch it again. Don't make yourself do that. Pick it up once, put it where it belongs, okay? Like, try to be really consistent about, I think the word is efficient, right? Be efficient about your time and stuff. Are there any other hints? I'm going to real quick peek at the comments. Clean sweeping. Yeah, clean it out. And do the dishes immediately. Man, that was, guys, if you knew what I was like before, you'd know that I've learned every single thing I'm saying the hard way. How do you organize your things online is a question someone asked, and that's a great question. Let's say you're a Homeschooling Torah member and you have all these subjects and you're supposed to download them for all your different kids. Well, do the same thing on your computer desktop that you do here. Okay, I've got a drawer for everything, right? And a shelf for everything. And I actually have things organized by use. Same thing on your desktop. Go ahead and go in there and make a bunch of folders. Make a Bible folder, make a history folder, make a math folder, and inside the math folder, make 1 folder for each of your kids. Maybe even make another folder for charts. You basically go in and everything that you want to use, make a folder for it. It can be empty, but it's ready to go, labeled, and you can go to it. And I would recommend putting them in the same order that they are on the website. Our planner that we give you guys has them all in that order too. So be consistent so that your brain kind of knows where everything goes. And then when you download, if you don't know how to download and make something go to a specific spot on your computer, let me know and I can make you a screenshot. It's not so bad. And make it go to where you want it to be. Don't just download and throw it on your desktop and have 6,000 files, or you'll never use them. Like, you're getting freebies from us this week. Do you have a spot to put that freebie so you will find it later, okay? It takes a little while. A friend of mine has recommended for a while that we all go, we didn't because of COVID, but we all go to like a food court or somewhere where there's internet and we all sit on tables and we organize our laptops together. That would be super fun. We just need to get rid of coronavirus so we can do that. But that'd be a fun thing to do. Get a friend who's pretty organized and have them come over and help you out. Okay. How do you, this is word for word what someone asked. How do I teach my children time management, self-paced projects and deadlines, staying organized with papers and rooms when mom isn't great at it herself? And I had to laugh. Do you guys know, after everything I've just said, what is the answer to that? Mom, you can't teach your kids how to be organized until you've learned how to be organized, okay? It's kind of like what Deuteronomy 6 says. These commands which I give you today shall be on your heart. Then you shall talk of them when you walk along the road, and so on. So, if you are struggling, if you see something in your kids that is, they never make their bed anytime. Well, you make your bed every morning, and then go upstairs and help them make their beds. But don't do it until you've made your bed first. You want them to put their dirty clothes in the laundry basket. You put your dirty clothes in the laundry basket. You want them to finish a project on time, then you have to do it first. And as you model it, you're going to need them to be organized or you won't be able to stay on yours, and it will all work together. But don't feel like your kids are failing at organizing. Really, the only person you need to work on is you. And as you get organized, you're going to have their help. But as you get organized, they'll naturally learn it. And it could take 5 years. And suddenly you're going to look at your kids and think, are those the same kids we used to have? Oh my word, they don't even look recognizable. They're suddenly so organized. Like being late to things. If you're on time, your kids are obviously going to be on time. If you have deadlines that you have to hit for, let's say you have an appointment with yourself every Sunday morning to plan out your homeschooling, then as your kids see you do that, you're going to notice that they start making to-do lists and they start trying to get their to-do list done. It's like you don't need to even teach it so much as let them catch it from you. So focus on you. Take that month and get organized. Okay. Babies. How do you homeschool, especially a wide range of kids, when you've got a new baby coming into the mix? How do you manage to teach history? How do you do reading of history stuff when the babies are hungry, right? When you're getting ready to do it. That's hard. A couple things. I'm going to go back to some of the things I said before. Anchors for the daily routine. Your babies need anchors for their daily routine too. I know this is slightly controversial. I don't know if you can see. I have a lot of books on my shelf on parenting and babies, and so when I have them from a wide range of perspectives. You've got the perspective that everything needs to be regimented, and I've got the other perspective up there on the shelf where nothing should be regimented and you should let your child lead the day. And I think that probably the wisdom is right in the middle, and that you lead your child, but obviously have flexibility for times when a baby needs flexibility. They do. Here are some of the ways that I do it. I don't schedule their sleep so much, but I do schedule their meals. I know that sounds backwards, but for instance, if I'm nursing a baby and they want to only nurse for 5 minutes, and I could let them be done because I want to get on to history with my older kids. Or I could say, no, you come on, honey, let's go back and have some more, and let that child nurse for long enough that they're going to get filled up, and it's going to give me a good 2.5, 3 hours, maybe longer if they're older, before I need to do it again. If the child is nursing for 5 minutes every half hour, how are you going to get school done? And I would mention from a health perspective, how does their body build good circadian rhythms when we don't have regular meals? Just like we say to our kids, you know, every 30 minutes your 10-year-old says, I want a snack, I want a snack, I want a snack. But then sometimes they just get so many snacks that when you put food in front of them, they don't want food. It's kind of the same principle, and obviously we need to have some flexibility here. I'm not saying be super rigid or tied to the clock, but I am saying that you can train your child, your babies, to eat at certain times and take naps approximately at certain times so that you can know a little bit what your routine is going to be. And then when you get your planner pages and you write your ideal week out, you can kind of guesstimate, okay, usually they are taking a nap at this time. You know, kids need some sleep. So you might plan like long discussions with your older kids when your younger ones are taking a nap. And I was a mean mom. I made my kids take a nap till they were 5, and they didn't always sleep. I know that, and they laugh about it. Some of the older ones will say, Mom, I wasn't sleeping. I'm like, yeah, but I needed you to take a break for a little bit. So I had other things I had to do. Sometimes that meant I needed a nap. So having those anchor points for your children has been super helpful. And yes, I just saw a thing, snacks are good for growth spurts. Yes, so obviously this changes. That is one of the reasons why in the planner pages I got you guys yesterday in your freebie, only lets you set a goal for 3 months. Because 3 months from now, in a family with all these kids growing and so much changing in our world, for Pete's sakes, you probably can't plan much further out than 3 months. I know you want to look at the whole school year. Okay, this is what I did when I started homeschooling. I laid out, I'll just say who it was. It was a Sunlight curriculum catalog. I laid it out on the floor. This was back in probably 1999. And I laid it out on the floor and I figured out on this huge pieces of paper and taped them all together literally what I was going to teach my 5-year-old, 4-year-old every single year all the way till he graduated from high school. I have a feeling you can guess what happened to that plan. Well, it didn't work so good. So what you would probably be wiser to do is maybe think of some big goals, like I want my kids to have good character. Okay, that's really broad, but every 3 months you can revisit it. And that way, if you have children that are growing and going through different stages and phases of life, maybe you're moving, maybe you're having a baby later in the school year, you can revisit it and kind of get everything back onto your plan. Does that make sense? Someone asked, do you think doing school 6 weeks and then 1 week off would throw off the preschool age children? It might a little bit, so go back to your anchor points. During those weeks that are off, have those anchors at the same time, where they know that lunch is going to be at this time, nap is going to be at this time, bath time is going to be here, story time is going to be here. And on those weeks off, you might, I'm not sure. I never did it with a preschooler. It would depend on children. Some of them might want, you know, like a little idea when they wake up that morning and you're sitting at the table having breakfast and your 3-year-old is expecting you to do school because you just did it for 6 weeks. You might say, today we're not doing school. It's our special week off. But here's what we're going to do until lunchtime, and kind of lay it out for them a little bit so they have that security. Sometimes just telling kids what to expect over the next 2 or 3 hours is enough. So, okay, reducing chaos. This was a question. How do I reduce chaos in my home and help my kids at the various ages learn self-control and how to focus their attention on what they're doing? We all struggle with this. Every single human being has to learn to ignore the chaos and focus their attention in and have self-control. I have to learn it. And those are the days I'm really susceptible to going on Facebook all day or talking on the phone. Your kids feel the same way. They don't always want to do math. I find that it's around 3rd or 4th grade that kids just, the math is really hard. They are really hungry and growing. They'd rather be doing other things, and I'm not saying you should be doing math all day. I think you should set a good limit. Short, easy lessons, as Charlotte Mason says. But they still have to learn self-discipline and to finish a job that's been given to them. So one of the ways that I love doing, I don't know if my kids love it, but I love doing is a timer again. I use timers for everything. And maybe they're working on a section and you can say, okay, I'm going to see if you can have that section done in 5 minutes, and if that's reasonable, okay? And I usually give them a little extra, and I'm like, do you have your pencil sharpened? Are you completely ready? And see if they can do it. That timers for short times, just a smidge longer than what you already know they can succeed at, so you can have some success at this. Little by little, giving them tests. That's a test. You know, my husband was talking about last Sabbath how the Father gives us tests. The book of Deuteronomy talks a lot about these tests. And he might bring a trial into our life just to see how we're going to react. Are we going to react crazy and like never follow him again? Or are we going to, okay, I can do this, and trust him and obey? So it's the same with our kids. Give them just a little test and develop that self-control, and then lots of praise and some rewards, and then give them another test. See if they can do it again tomorrow, kind of building up their self-control muscles, okay? So what do you do about kids distracting each other? That definitely happens at every house. And music, I don't know if your family's musical, but we have a couple boys in our house that love music, and they're constantly tapping their feet. We have a bathroom right over there, right next to the dining room table, and never fails. We're all deep in concentration out here at the table. My high school students are working on geometry and hard stuff, and my youngest will go in the bathroom and start tapping his feet to some song. He thinks he's in like a recording studio. He's in the bathroom, he doesn't know, and we're all like, we cannot think. This is so everybody goes through this. So there's two sides to this. We need to teach each of our family members to love our neighbor as ourselves. We need to teach the one that's tapping music in the bathroom that others can hear, and they need to have love and compassion. And then the rest of us out here need to learn that we can be patient with them, and they don't have to always make it easy for us to concentrate. So both sides, I have to show love to the ones that are being annoying, and the annoying ones need to show love to us. And it's not just one side or the other. We both have to love our neighbor as ourselves, right? Guilty party just walked through the house. So when we do that, it's an all-day thing. Okay, another thing that can help with kids distracting each other. Mom, don't be so far away from your kids that you can't participate in the discussion. When someone's being distracting, how far away are you? Are you like 5 feet away, 10 feet away, so you can immediately stop the words of unkindness and like short tempers and rudeness, and say, stop, that's not how we talk in this house. We should try that again. Say your words with kindness. Say your words with gentleness, and make them do it until they do it correctly. But the reason I say don't be too far away is because sometimes we as moms we're not immediately there to correct problems, so they continue to build until they become habits. So then we're going to have to stay there and continue to make a good habit until that new habit is formed. What to do about kids distracting each other? One of the things I also like is to have assigned seats at our table. Maybe that's because we have a large family. Maybe, I don't know, in a small family it may not be needed, but it's really helpful to have assigned seats, have their things in a spot where they know where they belong, and some of those distractions will end. However, behind us is our living room, and sometimes it's really nice to go in the living room and read history books together and snuggle on the couch. You can't see it, but this is a pretty big area right here, and sometimes we just all lay all over the floor, and my kids will bring their toys and we'll play right here. And unless they're being too loud that we can't hear, I think it's perfectly fine to let them play while we do that. So you don't have to all be at the table. I think math and copywork and language arts at the table. Anything else at the table? I think pretty much everything else could be done pretty much anywhere, which is fine. Okay, so that brings us to some of our questions about teaching specific subjects. Yeah, we live in Michigan and have Texas on our wall. Yeah, my husband grew up in Texas, so yes, he likes Texas. Everything's bigger and better there. Okay, teaching math. This one mom says, teaching math it's my most frustrating subject. How do I teach in a way that is really beneficial? Okay, one of the things that's hard about math is I think we as moms feel really uncertain about it ourselves. And I think that's the number one thing I get questions about from parents, saying, I don't feel adequate to teach math. So one of the things I want to say to you as a mom is, you don't have to be really good at math. You just have to be on the same page your child is. If your child is in kindergarten, you don't have to teach algebra. You only have to teach kindergarten math. And we're going to talk tomorrow about some of the things that we're doing at Foundations Press to make things easier on you and stuff. And I'd love to see videos someday, but it's not going to be this year. So we are available. Most curriculum companies have some kind of available contact line if you need help. You know, it might take a couple days to get an answer back, so sometimes that's not convenient. You can Google an answer, like a video, go to Khan Academy or some kind of place like that where they'll show you how to do it. But I think I'm going to move my camera. My table's a bit of a mess because we moved everything for the video, so I'm going to make it shown. Sorry. So I'm going to make see, this is our schoolroom. And over there is my blackboard. A whiteboard is awesome too, but we like the blackboard because it was pretty, so we decided to go with that this school year. So I think that blackboard or whiteboard or something hanging on the wall is my number one tip for math, because with math, it's visual. The second thing is, in our last session, we talked about repetition and association. Repetition is not kids' favorite thing. It's not mom's favorite thing either. A lot of people will skip all the math drills in any math curriculum and just want to talk about concepts all the time. But honestly, if you want math to be a little bit more fun, then memorize your multiplication tables, memorize your subtraction facts, so that when it comes to division and fractions and all of that, it's a little bit easier because we just know them. And you know, some kids don't want to memorize, but say too bad, and you know, make it fun. And we've got a lot of games in the curriculum, but you can make it fun, but not all of life is fun. Sometimes we just have to do it. So you need to be the mom and say, yep, we're going to do it today anyways, okay? And then secondly, association. And one of the things that we really like to do, so that door over there by the big clock is the kitchen. And so there are lots of things in the kitchen that help with association. One of the things we love to talk about in math is pizza. Right, kids? Do we talk about pizza a lot? Yeah. So another thing would be to talk about, you could talk about feeding the animals. So you've got chickens, you've got all kinds of math opportunities. You're playing at the playground, use a teeter-totter or the seesaw to show math facts. So draw pictures over there on that whiteboard. Lots and lots of pictures. I'm not a good artist. Mine are stick figures. But you can draw them up there. And I don't know. Sometimes taking the math paper to the whiteboard or blackboard, sometimes for the kid and let them do it up there, makes it suddenly understandable more than just doing it at the table. All right, I'm going to come back over here. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to peek at questions. Is our math curriculum available separately? No, it is not at the moment. It's only available to Homeschooling Torah. Maybe in a year or two. Maybe we'll get that done. It's on the list. So, okay, how about struggling readers? A mom said, how do we teach our kids to read, especially those that have learning disabilities? I think this mom has to do vision therapy at home. She probably used to have a therapist and now is having to do all of it herself. And that is hard. And I'm going to go back to what I said before. Have those anchor times in your day and be consistent. There's something about the way the brain works. And if you have a healthy body, but circadian rhythms and all the hormones that go in do help the brain develop. So when you always do phonics at 11 o'clock in the morning, there's something about the way it helps your brain work. So I would be very consistent. Then if you have to do a whole bunch of therapy and difficult things like learning, it could be speech therapy, it could be so many kinds of therapy, and you've been given instructions and now you're suddenly involved in having to do it on your own, I would lay out on the floor, kind of like I did when my kids were little, and make a plan. Make sure you have all of the supplies you need. my youngest was learning to read just, let's see, he's 10, so I guess it was while we lived in this house, because that middle drawer over there, I guess I didn't push it in very good, has all of the supplies in it for teaching someone to read. And we would sit down there on the floor and we would do it together. Pull open the drawer, all the stuff was there. So really, I think if I could sum up in how to teach your kids these difficult subjects when they're hard for you, it really does go back to kind of being organized and having a plan, and just take it one day at a time and be consistent, because when we have learning problems going on, that consistency, you're not going to see improvement every day. Some days you're going to see them digress, but that's okay. You just be consistent, make it an anchor point in their life. I hope that helps. Let's see. I'm going to switch gears because we've got a section of questions here. One mom says that she's been trying to introduce something called systems thinking in her kids' mindset. Basically, systems thinking is an educational way of trying to help kids be aware of the consequences of their choices and learn to examine problems in their life and make critical thinking decisions. To ask questions before just jumping into action. I don't know if any of you guys have kids like that, but I can imagine that a lot of us do. And we want to teach our kids, especially in the world in which we live, that you think before you act. How do you do that in a homeschool situation? I probably could have put this on Thursday with the parenting one, but let's go ahead because it has to do with education too. We want our kids to not just answer the questions, but we want them to think through something and have think of all the available choices and be logical and think of the consequences of any choices that we pick. I talked to my husband about this one before we came on, and he said one of the things that he thinks is kind of goes with what we were talking about this morning is to do our teaching in times of non-conflict. What he means by that is, let's say your son is known to punch his little brother because he's upset. They stole something from him and wham, he punches him. That is not Torah observant biblical behavior. But he didn't think, he just acted. And he didn't think about the consequences. So one of the things that you can do, you could parent him right in that moment, and you know how that gets really hot and everybody's yelling at everybody and someone's crying, and that's not the best of times in which to teach this. It would be better if we could do the majority of our teaching at a time when everyone's calm and relaxed and thinking about it. And one of the ways you can do that, like we said this morning, is to set up stories and say, if you were in this situation, what would you do? And not just talk about what would you do, but make sure you plant the word of God in their heart. Make sure you say, what does the Bible say about that? I love that the scriptures are so full of stories, because it gives them a chance to see the logical consequences of actions. So you talk about that. Don't just read the story, but say, in this section, when they made this decision and they chose to sin, what were the consequences? And then try to think of some ways that that's like their life and work it through. One of the best 2 times I can think of non-conflict, besides at school when you're sitting at the table. One's in the car, because you're in the car, it's kind of boring, and they're all sitting, you have to go somewhere, it's 20 minutes away. It's a great time to have a conversation. Talk about things that are going on in the world and say, what would you have done if you were in that situation? Another time is before bed. Before you go to bed at night, kids, their hearts are really soft and tender, and that's a great time to have those conversations. I hope that helps. I'm going to real quick check the questions over here. Okay, Shane says it is difficult to do school with children who are struggling to read. You have to read everything with everyone. It takes a lot more time. She says she groups as many subjects together as she can. Absolutely. When the hardest time to be a homeschool mom is when you have kids maybe under this age of 7 or 8, any of them, which I've only been out of that for a very short time. So all those years that we didn't have someone that could read, I would kind of try to prioritize my order in which I went through school. So we would do breakfast, and then we would do Bible time, because I think that should be really important. Put it near the beginning of the day. But then I would have my older kids go off and do their chores, make their beds, do the dishes, get the house cleaned up, and they were already in that routine of knowing how to do that. But then I could come and sit down here on the floor with my younger ones, the ones that couldn't read, and we would do phonics and math, because those are the two that you need to read the instructions to them. And a lot of times, phonics, it would take, say 15, 20 minutes. We'd work on things together. And then switch over here to the table. We would do math. And I would teach them a new concept. I'd try to limit it to just 10 minutes, okay? We'd drill and do it just like the stuff that's in the math drills, okay? And then I need to read the instructions. And I would go down the page and have them do the first problem in each section, and I would have read it. By that time, they've got it. And if they've had this math page before, they know what they're doing. So then they are sitting there as I call back my older kids, and then I usually would do math with them and anything like that they need help with. And then everyone can have that quiet time of working. Then you can go have snack time, maybe run around outside, do a little PE or something. Then come back and you can do your history and your science and your discussions. The little ones, the very little ones the baby might be having a nap by now, or you can stop and nurse them. The toddlers, you can give them some playing time right there where you are. But that's some of the way I did that. So yeah, be encouraged, Mom. Someday your kids are going to be able to read all on their own, and it's quite a bit easier. So it's a great goal to teach them to read, but they don't always read as quickly as we want them to, and you can't make it go any faster. Let's see. I'm going to check my question. What about a child with extreme dyslexia? I am going to refer that to a section of our website on Homeschooling Torah that, and actually I'm going to put it in the freebie tonight so that you have a link to it. But we have a whole special needs section, and we have several, I have an article on dyslexia, and I have a video that we did I think it was the 2017 Homeschool Family Conference on special needs. I would definitely watch that video. It's an hour long, and the reason is because it's a whole extra bit of ball game. You are not inadequate. In fact, you are the best person to teach your child if they have special needs. But it does take having a strategy and knowing why they have that problem and how to fix it. So that is definitely something. We have a lot of resources for you, but I would recommend you start there. Let's see. I'm going to go back to my page over here. How everyone doing okay? Look at the time too. We've been on for 47 minutes on this one. You guys have been great to hang out all afternoon with us. Okay, one of the questions that a mom asked is how to teach our children the difference between self-esteem and being proud. Because we want to push them to excel. In our world, we have this huge pressure on our kids to excel, but we don't want to make them proud, and we don't want to make them bitter. And this person asked, what do we do does the Bible say anything about how hard is too hard to push our kids? The only verse, two things I could think of. Read the book of Proverbs over and over and over again. You probably heard this before, but the book of Proverbs has 31 chapters, and in our Romanized calendar we have 31 days in every month. So if today is August 4th, you could read Proverbs 4, and tomorrow read Proverbs 5. So I would recommend that you do that with your kids. Maybe that could be your lunchtime anchor point. We have lunch, we read Proverbs. If that's not going to work, just read it yourself. But over and over and over again, because the book of Proverbs has a lot to say about pride. I think that the father does not look very good on pride. And so I would lean towards not being proud, right? Because I don't want you to have a low self-esteem. We need to understand who we are, that he created us and he made us to be, but we also got to temper that with pride. And that's why I just recommend reading the book of Proverbs over and over again, because it talks about this. Having said that, I would also recommend that you read the book of Ephesians. I have a Bible study on the book of Ephesians, Blessed to be a Blessing. And I wrote it a long time ago. It needs to be updated. But in the book of Ephesians, we read about who we are and who he called us to be and all of the great plans. And in that book, in Ephesians 6, where it says, fathers, do not provoke your children to wrath. So it's kind of that, don't push them so hard that you make them angry. And so they've got the two sides of that coin. So if you could read Proverbs and Ephesians and really concentrate on those two, maybe that could be your goal for this school year. That is the top thing I can think about of what the Bible says. Is that balance of, yes, we have been given so much and we want to see our kids excel and to be everything that he's called them to be in his kingdom. But on the other side, we don't want them to be proud. So yeah, that would be my advice. My husband said on that one, contentment, godliness with contentment is great gain. And learning to live at peace in our world, to work with our hands and to do our work and to just live a peaceable and quiet life. Those are goals that we want our kids to have. One mom says, I feel like I'm not doing enough to be a homeschool mom. How do you know if you are doing enough? And it's kind of the same question for you as well. You want your kids to be everything that Yehovah made them to be, but on the other hand, you don't want to be, whipping yourself so hard every day that you burn out and you're exhausted. So having that wisdom is somewhere in the middle. Learning to be content with your life, learning to be okay with the place that he has you at this moment in your life takes a huge weight off. You're not racing after the next achievement, next award in 4-H, or the next scholarship, or the next college entrance, or that you want your kids to have a job that pays at least this much per year. Learning to be content can take a lot of load off. Even as we don't compare ourselves to other homeschool moms, just being content with who you are. That brings me to, let me just check and make sure there aren't any questions. Okay. Yes. One mom says, yes, contentment, especially with what your husband provides, and having gratitude even to him. Yeah, thankfulness. Okay, so we're going to talk a lot about anger and fear tomorrow in our session, so I won't go into that too much, but yes, there's a lot of good stuff there. One mom says she's in her 40s. She says, I used to find time and joy in homeschooling my older kids, but I've lost my zeal with my younger kids. And I can relate. I am 46, and sometimes I think that we older moms can get really worn out. How many of you, if you're older, you can answer this question? I don't know what older is, but stuff on, yes, sometimes I go on Pinterest and I that. Hopefully you can hear me. All of the excitement and exuberance that the young moms, but we get tired. And I think that, one of the things I would say to you older moms is the providence of God put a child in your life when you were older. And that child is going to come out a little differently than a child that came into your life when you were 20. Someone asked, what's the question? Because it was buff. It's an older mom in her 40s that's so tired. She used to find joy in homeschooling her older children, but now that she's got her younger children, she's lost all of her zeal. I bet you she has wisdom, though. She might not have all of the lesson plans and amazing activities that are on Pinterest, but now she's got wisdom. And I would say to you older moms, what's wrong with just sitting on the couch and reading a book with your kids? What's wrong with just going about your daily activities that you have in your life and allowing the younger kids to be with you? And now, as you get older, one of the things that can make you tired is when your children are misbehaving. So make sure that you're not so tired that you don't correct bad behavior. Correct it right away, so that you have a happy home, a home where kids are obedient, and a home where kids are respectful and kind to their brothers and sisters is a home that is more peaceful. But otherwise, don't make the expectations be too high for you, and How do you get back your zeal? I'm not sure you're ever supposed to go back to acting like you're 25 again. Kids look a little different than it did when you were younger. And I just think in his wisdom, he put those kids into your home at just the right time, and that affects how they turn out. Yes, it does, but it's okay. So make sure you do the things that matter. Make sure that your character and you're holding them to the standard that you should hold any human being to, that you're not so tired that you don't correct. But otherwise, I say relax and just take that pressure off and don't try to be everything you used to be. So, let's see. High school. We have some questions about high school. I just want to make sure that I'm not missing anything. Okay. Someone asked, talk about high school from a biblical perspective. Now, my husband and I both read that question, and we read it 2 ways. So I'm going to answer it the way he thinks it is and the way I thought it was. So, high school from a biblical perspective, my husband said, well, if you want to teach high school from a biblical perspective, teach them a lot of this. I don't know if that's what the mom wanted to know or not, but that's true. If you want to teach high school from a biblical perspective, then before they are gone and graduated and started on their careers, pour as much Bible into them as you can, and as many discussions, good discussions about the Bible as you can. I'm not sure that's what the question was, though. So it could be, this is the way I was looking at it, is high school something that is even in the Bible? Is high school something that we should be doing? What's the Bible's perspective on high school? I don't know which way the question was. So if that's the way it was, no, high school is not in the Bible, but training ourselves up so that we can provide for a family someday would definitely be biblical. Learning a skill and a trade so that we can, contribute, not only provide for our family, but it says, I think isn't it Isaiah or Jeremiah 29, where it says while they were in dispersion in Babylon, they asked, when are we going to get to go back to the land? And he says, not yet, not till the 70 years are up. And they said, well, no, that's terrible. What are we going to do here? I don't want to live in this Babylonian culture. And I know a lot of us feel that way. We don't want to live in a Babylonian culture. And he says, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and not to harm you. So that's the context. And basically it says, I got to find it. It says, I've got 2 pages. I'm in Jeremiah 29, verse 5. He says, build houses, dwell in them, plant gardens, eat their fruit, take wives, beget sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters to husbands, so that they may bear sons and daughters, so that you may be increased there and not diminished, and seek the peace of the city where I've caused you to be carried away captive, and pray to Jehovah for it, for in its peace you will have peace. Do you see that's a plan for high school? Go down those verses. That's Jeremiah 29, verses 5 through 7. Go down through those verses and think about how do we bring peace to the cities where he has put us. In dispersion, in Babylon, where we are right now, because we haven't been able to come out of her yet, at least not physically. We definitely need to come out this way. But how do we help our children bring peace and prosperity? Here in Michigan, it's election day. Today is a primary. So my high school students need to learn about government and economics. They need to be out there voting, right? If they're old enough, or learning about voting. What about if your child has a passion to become a doctor and they have to go through the medical system with all of its anti-biblical things that are going on? You're going to have to spend those high school years teaching them how to navigate that system according to the Word of God. But it's okay for them to seek the peace of the city where he's caused them to be carried away captive. Some of them are going to just plant gardens and eat fruit as gardeners and farmers. Some of them are going to become mechanics. Some of them are going to become vets. It's so many different things, but you can use those verses. It's not that we should withdraw from society so much that we can't function in it, because we need to seek the peace of that city where he's called us, because when it has peace, we will too. I think we've all seen that this year with COVID. We don't have to be an extremist on either side, right? We can live in this world according to Scripture, but also in peace. So from a high school perspective, that means that your children really might need to learn advanced math. Your children might need to learn as much science as possible, because you don't know yet when they're only 13 or 14 or 15 what he's called them to. I do have a section on our website. I think it was in one of our previous conferences. I'll put a link in the freebie on how to help your children prepare for careers, and there's a lot of information in that, so I'll make sure I do that. One mom says, what if my daughter is non-traditional and she doesn't want to go off to college or learn a trade? What if she just wants to be a homemaker? What if you had a daughter that wants one day to be a homemaker and the next day she wants to go to college, and then she changes her mind and wants to be a homemaker, and then she wants to go to college? And those are entirely different skill sets. I would say teach them as many skills for the college route as possible, and also teach her to be a homemaker. I think high school is hard because there are so many things that we just don't know about the future. So it's really hard to be prepared. And don't forget, I don't have the reference, but in Isaiah it says, when he says that you will hear a voice behind you, it says, this is the way, walk in it. I don't think there's anything wrong with spending an extra amount of time in prayer. Teach your kids how to pray. Teach them how to listen to the voice of the Father as he guides them to their future choices. As he speaks to their heart, listen to them. Teach them how to make a planner and become organized and to make goals for the future. It's not too early. Those are some of the things. And I would definitely err on the side of making them learn college-ready skills, though, because you just only have so much time. You're going to have their whole life to learn other things, but you only have so much time. If you want to get into college, you have to do it by a certain date on a calendar that's going to be set by the secular governments and world systems. So you have to go along with that, and you have to plan. And you can do it, and you can do it in a way that honors him. Okay, last question on here. Let me just make sure. I'm going to come back to that question, Sharon, and I'm going to answer this one real quick, and then I'm going to come back to that one. One last question on high school. How do we help a young adult remain a lifelong learner and keep his mind on things above, even after high school graduation? How do you develop that love of learning, especially for a love of learning of Scripture? This question to me reminds me of the organization question we had earlier. The organization question was, how do we teach our children time management and how to stay on deadlines and how to be organized when mom is not great at it herself? And with this question, I would say, if we want our children to be lifelong learners and to keep our mind on things above, then we as moms, yeah, we have to do it ourselves first. We have to do it. But if you have kids and you're just learning this path, and you have kids that are in high school, you need to do it vocally. You need to be speaking out loud and thinking, and not just holding all your thoughts in here. Don't just have opinions. Don't get on a soapbox that doesn't have any basis in Scripture. If you did no other subject from Homeschooling Torah Foundations Press, I would say do Torah. Do the Torah with your kids. Read through it together and try to bring in our current culture and everything that's going on into the discussion. And you know what else I would do? I would turn off the TV, get off of the internet, and that includes for my kids. Stop the voices from coming in from outside and let the voices that they hear be yours and the Word of God. You need to teach them why you believe what you believe. Don't just say, we're going to do this from now on. No more Christmas. We're gonna not do any of those pagan things anymore. We're only going to do what the Bible says. And they're going to be, why? Where'd that come from? And you need to make sure that you're living it, and that, you know, as Deuteronomy says, that his commands are on your heart first. I really think that when you have a love of learning and a love of Scripture and a love of pleasing him, your kids catch it more than they are taught it. I think that's really what it, and if you don't have that much time, allow them to get into their grown-up years and learn it themselves. You didn't know it when you were their age, so don't be too critical on them either. Allow them the same grace that the Father gave you to learn things over your life. That's a train. I always tell you guys we're going to have a train. I'm going to look real quick at the questions. I think there was a question from Sharon. I'm just going to slide up a little bit so I can see what that said. Sharon says, I'm a grandmother of 6 under 5 years. I want to help my daughters who say they want to homeschool but are not prepared to do so. Okay, I can help you. If they're young, I would get this book for them. 4 Foundations of Lifelong Learning. It's only like $4.95, I think, if you get the ebook, and so it's not expensive. And it really lays out how to get kids under the age of 5 ready for school and how to help mom be ready for school. And you know what? If you have kids that are older than this and you're homeschooling for the first time, actually might not be a bad investment for you either. That and the Organized Homeschool and Biblical Home Education. Those are the 3 books that we have. They're at Foundations Press, or if you're a member of Homeschooling Torah, they're free. So I know that's not very much of a helpful answer, but I really have a ton of information in there on how to get your kids ready for school. And as a grandma, it would help you too. Let's see. I'm going to make sure I'm wrapping it up here. So if you have any more questions or if I've missed something, Jennifer says, make sure to point out from scripture what you're teaching your kids. Don't just tell them what to believe. Absolutely. Absolutely. Someone is asking a question about accreditation in high school. Is accreditation necessary? No. In none of the 50 states is accreditation necessary, except some of them will require you to be under an umbrella. And you can contact us if you need any help. I would definitely recommend that you look at Homeschool Legal Defense, or hslda.org, and I'll put a link to that in tonight's freebie. But we can help you figure out how to apply Homeschooling Torah to your state's laws. Otherwise, accreditation is not required. Having said that, it's not the high school that's going to care how you taught your kid. It's the college or the place of employment. So when you have a child that's getting ready to go to college, they are going to want to know that the things that you learned or you taught your children were sufficient for them to be able to get into college. We have a section on our website on our blog under high school that has a whole bunch of information on transcripts and setting up transcripts, giving them grades, writing good descriptions of your courses and all of that. And we will definitely help you with that if you need help. So you can reach out to us. But accreditation is not so much important as long as you will show that you know what you're talking about, and we can help you if you need help looking polished, okay? So that's not necessary for any state under the age of 9th grade though. So I do recommend that you look into Homeschool Legal Defense and try to definitely follow your state's laws, but we can help you. So yeah, let us know and we can point you to the resources that we have. Okay, so I think that's basically everything. Now we have some more question and answer time. We have another one coming on Thursday. I think it's at 2 o'clock. Also, I'm going to do some tests on my internet between now and then so we can make sure everything works okay. Abba willing, as much as we can. And we're going to talk about obedience. We're going to talk about what to do if you started late. We're going to talk about marriage and what to do if you're in a divorce situation, what to do if your husband or spouse's beliefs are not the same as yours. We're going to talk about rebellious teenagers. So those are just some of the questions. I want to encourage you, if you have questions about marriage or parenting, that you get them to us between now and Thursday, and we would be super happy to include them in our list. Otherwise, be watching your email this evening for a handout with all kinds of resources that we talked about today. And I will see you at 9 o'clock tonight. My husband and I are going to do a session on notebooking and how to do grades for your kids and how to record what they're learning. And it's fun. We had a lot of fun recording that one. So shalom, thanks for your patience with our internet, and we will see you guys later if I know how to turn off the live stream. I think I do. Shalom.